Welcome, voters, and thank you for your interest in the Florida Senate District 25 candidates. District 25 encompasses North and Northwest West Palm Beach County, including most of Jupiter proper, Jupiter Farms, out west to Lake Okeechobee, and all of Martin and St. Lucie counties. I'm Mark Beaumont, president of the North County Democratic Club, Palm Beach, and today I'd like to welcome Corinna Robinson, Democratic candidate for Florida Senate seat 25. Corinna, welcome, and please introduce yourself to the voters with a 3-minute opening statement.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Dr. Corinna Balderramos-Robinson, and I'm running to be your next senator in Florida Senate District 25. I left my hometown in South Dakota at the age of 17, straight out of high school to begin my service to our beloved nation. I followed in my father's and his brother's footsteps to serve in the U.S. Army. My father, Alexander Balderramos, had passed on, and my mother was left to raise her daughters on her own. Little did I know that I would serve for 25 years on active duty around the world and be blessed with raising 3 sons who I proudly call my fire team. There is a dire need for bold and ethical leadership in our district. Through my time in the Army and then as a legislative congressional fellow, I saw firsthand that effective management and legislation can improve lives. That's why I'm running. In our district, whether in St. Lucie, Martin, or Palm Beach County, from Fort Pierce to Indiantown, it's time for deeds, not words. It's time for leaders to lead, and it's time to get things done. If elected as District 25's next state senator, I will uphold necessary emergency relief and support. During these unprecedented times, it is crucial that our small businesses and our residents receive ongoing support through the COVID-19 pandemic, and that we have plans in place to protect our future. Environmental pollution is one of the biggest threats we face in our district, and both the health of our neighbors and the strength of our economy is dependent on the health of our ecosystem. The cyanobacteria and algae blooms in Lake Okeechobee must be monitored and mitigated. Big Sugar must have no influence on district or state legislation, and the Forever Land Conservation Program must be instituted and funded appropriately in order to ensure the health of the water, marine life, and our economy. Healthcare is a human right, and the Affordable Care Act is necessary in order to provide reasonable access to healthcare for all. As we've seen throughout this pandemic across our state, far too many people are a single illness or health emergency away from financial ruin. This can and is preventable. Our children deserve the very best in education. As a proud product of public education, I believe that there must be equity. This means better funding for public school teachers. To preserve our democracy, we must tackle internal and external threats of voter suppression head on. I will put my expertise to work in combating cyber attacks and foreign influence against our elections with our modern technology and interagency support. Every citizen of the state of Florida must be given a safe, fair, and equitable opportunity to vote, including by mail. This campaign and these priorities mean nothing without your support. It's time for your voice to be heard. Join our team today and vote for Corinna on August 18th. It's time that the leadership in our district actually worked for us. Thank you.
All right, Corinna, you were right in at 3 minutes there. Thank you very much. So the incumbent that you seek to unseat has a very long career in Tallahassee. And she's helped cement the status quo that we all live under here in District 25. What is that status quo and those decisions that she has made, and what needs to change specifically? What is the most paramount thing that you would start to try to work on to change what the status quo has been for the last many years?
Well, I believe, just as I witnessed when I was a congressional fellow on Capitol Hill, working for a representative congressman on the Intelligence Committee, far too often I saw where the parties were not willing to find common ground through the committee hearings or working with political staffs. It was always a bargaining kind of process, and to get so many things on one particular bill. without consciously looking at the things that are detrimental to our society at large. You know, I spent 25 years in the military and another 5 years in a very senior government position. So I didn't look at things from a partisan perspective. It's what's best for the people at risk. And most of the time I was dealing with human lives. So that's what I feel now, and what really helped me launch my decision to run in Senate District 25, that I believe Senator Harrell is resting on her laurels. She has been in office for quite some time. She's probably one of the wealthiest state legislators that we have right now. So I am not a millionaire. I live off my military pension and I have a job at Kaiser University. So I know that upon election, one of my first endeavors will be to work across party lines to find common ground. And somebody is capable of doing that if they've really faced hard policy and strategy decisions before. And that's what I bring to the plate. You know, having a degree from Georgetown in public policy, working on Capitol Hill, serving at high levels of government, where people are very apt to do things for different reasons. So I'm not going to be appeasing to different types of lobbyist groups or special interest groups or people who are donating to my campaign who have a lot of money. I'm going to do what's right. And when I'm on the floor and when I'm in a meeting, I'm going to make sure that people understand that that's what matters. And we all have our own personal agendas. We want to get reelected. But at the end of the day, we are elected by the people to defend their interests.
Right. So currently the majority in the Senate is 25-15. If you were to win, you would still be in the minority. So your incumbent has voted for things like increasing the signature threshold for initiative ballot petitions. She voted for prohibiting local governments from banning certain drugs and cosmetics. These are all things that are taking away power from the people and local governments. Hoping that you'll win, and we think that you've got a good chance to do so. What would you say to the majority membership, your colleagues in the Senate, as to how you would rebuff them for something like increasing those signature thresholds for petitions?
Well, you know, I've not been shy about reaching out to our current state senators or those hoping to be, and letting them know that I'm following very closely what they're fighting for. So upon election, I can fall in line and help them. And then I'll give you an example where I was looking at Senate Bill 368, where Senator Harrell had talked about, you know, taking $50 million from the Land Acquisition Trust Fund in hopes that, you know, maybe we'd get some federal grants to help out with everything else. And that's not enough. You know, we shouldn't keep chipping away at that particular fund, especially when our environment is at risk. So I think that when I look at for example, how many signatures we need for petitions, oh my gosh, you know, legislators or candidates, we have a lot of things to do. I mean, it's important to have the people behind you and get those petitions signed for a particular bill or amendment. But raising the threshold, is it necessary? Because it takes a lot more man hours and support to do that. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think there's more utility with our time and to do things otherly that are important.
Right. So, and talking about the environment a little bit, you mentioned it in your opening. Recently, the governor was here locally to herald the fact that he signed the Clean Waterways Act. And it's been described as by some people as mediocre at best and more public relations. And I'd like to just hear your comments on what could have been more to improve that act.
Well, one of the things I was able to do when working at the Pentagon was I worked with the Corps of Engineers, and I looked at a lot of different types of environmental impact studies. And in the Clean Waterways Act, if it is to be enforced, we have to make sure that whether it's the Corps or our governmental officials, that need to go back and make sure that every risk which comes with agricultural type of hazards or not having enough things to clean the water, that we need to make sure that they're followed through with. And we need to penalize those corporations or those factories or even some homeowners who have septic systems that are failing. Everyone needs to be accountable, and perhaps the fine should be increased.
Right. Recently, too, the governor finally signed the budget. It was, I guess, originally $92.5 billion, and he cut quite a bit of money out, down to 91 billion. So he cut about $1 billion, and his reasoning was because of the pandemic, kind of made things a little tougher and tighter. One of the things that he cut was funding for housing, and it seemed to bring the Sadowski Fund back into play as a little dipping pot for if they had any, needs for money to go elsewhere. Obviously, that's basically balancing the budget on the backs of, poor and needy people. What could be done to stopgap that and make sure programs like that, like housing for the needy, continues to be funded properly?
Well, we obviously need to elect better leaders. I had a lot of faith in our governor, being former military, that he would surround himself with some really sound leadership and making sure that he stayed true to Floridians. I believe that he's been misguided, and that, for example, in dealing with this pandemic, we certainly could have established a lot more testing locations. We could have put the stimulus checks in people's bank accounts a lot quicker. We could have made sure that people were getting their unemployment paid a lot quicker. And there was just so much delay and inaction. And I regret that that has really affected so many hardworking families. I mean, I've been out there. I mean, I'm practicing social distancing with my mask on, but I see the tears and I see the people struggling. And, I fear that, especially with those that cannot return to work, we're going to see more, perhaps, drug abuse, domestic violence, PTSD for our veterans or anyone else who's facing trauma. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I believe the governor is to take money away from people's programs, such as housing. That is not necessary. There's other pots of money that we can pull that money from within Florida, or we can request more federal assistance. It can be done. And I mean, I know, again, I don't try to rest on what I did before, but when I was directing force protection at the Pentagon for a facility of 20,000 people in 100 other buildings, that was during sequestration. And it was right before the government shutdown. And I chose to leave a job that paid my son's college tuitions to go run for a congressional seat in South Dakota, where the lady voted to shut the government down twice. So I don't know all the answers. I'm learning so much every day, but I can tell you, I have fought the fight, not just in combat, but I've fought it as a senior governmental official. I'm a small business owner myself, and I'm going to do the very best I can to represent Senate District 25. And I know people are a little anxious, thinking, well, she moves every 2 or 3 years, and I do, because I run to the sound of the guns. But if I'm fortunate enough to get elected, I'm not going anywhere. And that my 3 sons live here. And Mark, I chose to work out of the North County Dem office during the 2018 Nelson Gillum campaign. That was my choice. And I know I did a heck of a job as a field organizer, and I'm so proud to have this conversation with the North County Dems and the League of Women Voters too. I feel so excited that we're going to get this victory underway, and I'm just going to get to work and get it done.
There you go. I mean, you've made yourself very noticeable around here locally. I've seen you at many events, and obviously you've been, up close and personal and social distancing safely with a lot of the constituents. What would you say is their number one concern is? Is it COVID-19, or is it the economic shutdown, or combination of both? I mean, what would you put your finger on as the number one thing that really needs to be addressed in Senate District 25?
Well, you know, there are 3 different counties, and I've been hopping around every other day going to a different town or a different venue. And collectively, I would say right now, people's voices just want to be heard. You know, whether it's Black Lives Matter, or they're afraid to go back to work and contract the virus, or they can't pay their utility bills. There's flooding going on in Hobe Sound. I think they think politicians are just kind of caught up in their own periphery and have a certain agenda. And they are more concerned with getting reelected than they are getting the work done to help the people. And I think that's from my background of being in the military, or working with the military police, or now with Kaiser University. I'm a people person, so I'm going to get out there in the community. We have to be careful. We can't do big town halls and, you know, conventions anymore, but I hear the people, and I'm going to reflect what their needs are. So, and of course, the environment's important, and of course, our public education, or the education of our youth, especially if the schools. I mean, we're talking about reopening the schools right now, and I just, oh my gosh, you know, this virus. We don't even have a vaccine that's available yet for everyone to use, and we're talking about sending our children back to school. I know it's hard for those parents at home taking care of those kids, but that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I know. One of the things that I've seen is on the federal level, you know, some of the, you know, people like Paul Manafort, it was deemed that it was too dangerous for him to stay in prison because of coronavirus. And yet here we're looking at, you know, putting kids and teachers back into school. This, you know, obviously the state has pretty much mandated that you got to go back to school, and it remains to be a question whether each county is going to be able to decide how that's done or not. I guess from the state level, the state education commissioner has that control, but is there anything the state legislature can do to help steer that conversation?
Well, it might be similar to the conversation we're having about mandating the wear of masks. You know, look at it perhaps from a county perspective. Just like in Martin County, I went to 2 county commission meetings in the last month, and the last one was with regard to the wearing of masks, and it was very controversial. But I think then they met again to talk about, okay, we do want to mandate masks, but there's certain parameters where people will have some freedom of movement. So we should do perhaps the same thing with education. If there is a location where the school can practice, you know, all types of procedures to make sure the students and the faculty and the staff are safe, taking daily temperatures, and, you know, just making sure that the facilities are cleaned, then okay, test it out. It's just like the college campuses. But I don't think our governor should mandate it for the whole state.
Okay, switching gears a little bit. I don't know if all of our viewers got to see last night's county Democratic Party candidate forum. There was a couple of questions. One was on the idea of making Florida a 100% vote by mail state. What's your position on that?
Well, my position was to continue as is. I do hope, though, right now that during this pandemic that everyone exercises the right to vote by mail. I would encourage voting by mail. That's lesser poll workers, lesser facilities that have to be clean, and that people can stay safely at home. And we've been doing vote by mail, I mean, for example, for the military since the Civil War. It works. But some people find a great deal of pride and joy in being able to go cast their ballot in person. I know I'm one of those people, but I'm reconsidering because I don't want to be out in the community or force other people to go out to the community, even if they're volunteers.
Okay. One of the other questions was making Florida, right now Florida's a closed primary state. And so obviously people from other parties can't participate in other parties. So you know, right now, a lot of the NPAs are left out of making a selection. And so some people have posited that maybe it would be a good idea to open it up a little bit more. Obviously, the question is, if you want to vote in a primary and you're an NMPA, pick a party. But there are, you know, it's almost a third, a third, a third in some cases, in some precincts and counties and such. So what's your position on making Florida an open primary state as opposed to keeping it a closed primary?
Well, as I mentioned last night, I believe the closed primary right now is the way to go. I mean, you know, the population of Florida is quite large, and I believe it gives the opportunity for political parties to get behind a candidate who's proven themselves worthy. I mean, it's a lot of work, as I know, to be a candidate to earn trust and credibility. It does make it difficult when you can't get a lot of endorsements until the primary's over, whether that's monetary or not. But it enables the parties to focus, and I know that is not advantageous to the MPAs. But you know, the primary will occur on August 18th. Then we'll know who the candidates are, and then we can move forward as quickly as possible to win this election for all Democrats.
All right, well, we're right at about our 20-minute window here. Would you like to make any closing remarks?
I would just ask that if folks have not taken the opportunity to go to the website. I know it is just a website, but we've put a lot of incredible work into it with a lot of videos that I've been doing, or meeting and greeting people where I stand on the issues, my political bio. So I believe it's a true picture of who Corinna is. And that at any time, please, I mean, my website has the email address. Send me an email. I'm personally going to look at it. I may not be able to reply right away because there are other things that I have to do, but I promise I will get back to you. And for those who have just a couple dollars to donate, please do. Don't wait. You know, we're saving up for, you know, signs at the polling stations or mailers. Not everybody uses social media. So we just ask that people take a serious look at my capabilities. I'm looking for your vote and your support, and just thank you so much.
All right, everybody, thank you for watching. We have a very important election coming up. The presidential in November is extremely important, but we want to make sure that you vote down ballot and make sure that you select all of the candidates who are Democratic candidates who are on the ballot in November. Corinna, best of luck to you in your campaign in the primary, and if you prevail, best of luck to you, obviously, in the general. And we hope to cut into that majority margin and keep marching more Democrats up to Tallahassee to fight for the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
All right.